Hey, everybody, welcome to Live from My Drum Room. My guest today is Nashville session and touring drummer Keio Stroud. And in this episode, Keio and I talk about what it takes to be a working drummer in Nashville. And as you'll soon see, I think a lot of it has to do with his positive attitude. He's just a great guy, besides being a great drummer, but just a great guy to be around. And I think that goes a long way. We're going to play a couple of tracks that he played on, some Keb Mo tracks. Come along for the ride, enjoy the show, and I'll see you on the other side. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. So it's a real pleasure and an honor to welcome Keio Stroud.
This is like awesome.
Oh, well, it's awesome for me. I appreciate you being here today. And
Yeah,
you were on a panel discussion, not the last PASIC, but the one in 2022, I
going for
guess,
it.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
And I just
yeah.
I loved your message. I loved your positive vibes, your positive attitude about music and being a drummer and life. And
Oh, thanks, man. Yeah, I like to be positive. I figure is, why waste your time on not being that? People
I
do
know,
it, but
yeah.
I think it's great to try to focus on the good things because I feel like good things bring more good things, even if something weird happens in between that.
Yeah.
There's still the outcome is good. So.
No, I agree. And what you say, it's so simple, right? It's so obvious and simple, but I think, I find myself sometimes I get hung up on stuff, and I just found like just hearing you talk about like your working in Nashville, and I know it's not easy to move to Nashville and break into that scene and get work and all that. But being around you, I could see why you've been able to do that, because besides being a great drummer, and that's obviously a big part of it, but you got to have the right attitude. You got to be around people, want to be around somebody that's positive.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I mean, that's like the key to it, is like when you're, it's weird to say coworkers, but it's essentially that's what we are. When
Yeah.
we join bands or if you're in a session or even if you're doing clinics, with between artists and endorsers, and all that stuff, we're all coworkers, so we all have to get along with each other.
Yeah.
And so it's like, why not be the person that you want other people to be? You know what I mean? Where it's like, why not be easy? Why not try to be on top of your, on top of your stuff? Like, why not spread good messages? Like why not randomly Venmo people for coffee, in the morning or whatever? You know what I mean? So it's like, because like those things go far because people remember that. They remember that you're, a nice person first, and then that you play great. And then they go, man, you know what? I want to be around this person.
Yeah.
And if
Yeah.
they're like, it can be like, man, that person plays great. I don't want to be around them. So I'm not calling them for this. Like, I never want to have that happen when someone says, I can't call Kia for this because I don't want to be around him, or I don't feel comfortable with him around the artist, or I don't feel comfortable with him around the secretary, or whatever it is. You know what I mean? Where it's like,
Yeah. Yeah.
I would like to say, if I don't get a gig, it's because someone says, man, I would have called you for that gig, but it was a metal gig. And I go, yeah, 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 I'll do that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? As
Exactly. Yeah.
opposed to, I don't do nice. I can't do nice, so don't call me.
Yeah, no, I know, again, it's man, we got some great folks watching, by the way, Keo. We got Harry McCarthy, um, Eric
Oh,
Lederman,
I love
who
Harry.
I yeah, Eric. I mean, the busiest man in show business is taking time out of his
It
day
is.
to watch us today. So thank you, Eric and Harry.
Yeah, I love Eric. Eric was
Yeah,
great. I got to do Seth Meyers, and he was awesome.
yeah,
He was
he's
he was so much fun. We
he's a
had
great
way too
dude.
much fun. Yeah.
Yeah, I got that impression from him. He's fun to be around. But yeah, no, and
Yeah.
again, all the pros that I know, by and large, say what you say, and I just think it's important to keep reiterating that message to like young drummers that are, I'm sure they come up to you and say, "Hey, man, I'm thinking of moving to Nashville. What does it take to
Yeah.
like break into the scene there?" And I think you and me and other people can't remind people enough of that's such a big part of it, like to be a good positive person to be around, a good hang.
Oh, yeah. Well, and not only that, but like know your business and know the business.
Yeah.
Like if you don't know something, ask questions about it. You know what I mean? So it's like the last thing anybody ever wants to do is hire someone who's not cool, who knows nothing about the business, because everything so they end up coming out to be kind of ignorant, which is like a lovely word that people hate to use these days, but it's a real thing where you're like
Hmm.
you're oblivious, you're ignorant to what you need to do to yourself and to other things. So nobody wants that. You want a nice person who is willing to learn about the business no matter what it takes, within reason, obviously, no matter what it takes to do that, and then grow with it, and be able to ebb and flow and change. It's like I see guys like Eddie Bears who's have Bears had like a 300-year career, and he's still getting called. You know what I mean? Like people still want to call. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah, yeah. He's something.
at 70, I forgot how old he told me he was the other day, but at 70 something years old, he is still playing on records. He's still doing his things. Why? Because he's a nice guy, he plays great, and he knows the business. So when in him or anyone else that when they're, when they know how to play the game, or they know how to, I guess game is not the correct word, but maybe it is, but they know how to play the game and know how to keep working. And you can learn from those guys. And that's the other thing too, is like about being in Nashville, is that everybody is so accessible, especially nowadays. You can literally FaceTime, if not FaceTime, you can send a message on Facebook to your favorite drummer in Nashville, and they will probably respond to you in a positive way.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? And you can get together and you can hang out with that person, and you guys can talk about drums, you can talk about children, you can talk about your wives, you can talk about your parents, whatever. But you have that ability to do that. And so people should really take advantage of that. And then also when you do that, know that someone is giving their time to you. So like don't ruin that time, because that might be the only time you ever get to hang out with that person. Because they
Yeah.
might be the next time you call them, they might be like, yeah, nah, buddy, you just talked about yourself the whole time. Or you tried to tell me, or you tried to,
Yeah,
like, because like
yeah.
some people, I've had this before where people were like, hey, man, like, I moved to Nashville and people said, I need to meet you. Rich Redmond said, I need to meet Keio Stroud. And I'm like, sure, man, whatever. And then they meet you and they go and they want to talk to you about stuff. But then as they're talking to you, they ask you questions, but then they answer the question to let you know that they know the answer to it, which is then a waste of my time,
Yeah.
because I'm not there for you to prove, you're not, we didn't get together so that you can prove to me that you know everything. You got there because you had questions for me about what to do. And then if I answer the question the way you think I'm going to answer it, then that means you're on the right path. You know what I mean? And
Yeah,
people don't
yeah.
understand that sometimes,
Yeah.
where like, yeah,
That no,
that's my
Keo,
soapbox.
that's what you're saying is huge, and I think that's like a communication thing. You're right there. What you just is a great example of like in many instances too, right? I mean, it could be, I've had that happen where exactly, and maybe I'm doing it right now by talking about me, which I don't mean to do, but I totally,
No, no.
I totally know what you mean though, where you're like, you're kind of thinking, man, I'm happy to be here and give you my time and my insights and information and stuff I've dealt with since I've been here. But you're just you're just like talking over me right now, and like, what's the point?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, no, man. I mean, I'll tell you a great experience that I had experience where you should listen to people when they're talking to you. So when I got the chance to do when Eric contacted me about doing the Seth Meyers thing, I was all about it. And then he was like, "Man, you're gonna get a bunch of information thrown at you, so just respond, as quickly as possible." And blah blah blah. I was like, "Of course." And I'm like, there's a million emails and the whole thing. There's all these great things that happen. But the most important thing is for you to absorb this information they're giving you. And
Hmm.
if you have questions, you ask a question, then you get an answer so that you don't screw up. And it's one of those situations where like you go into, especially, like it's like I'm a drummer, I play drums, woohoo, right? But then you go into a situation where you have a band leader, you have producers, you have people around and say, hey man, so this is what we need. We need you to, and when they said to me, we need you to do these things, I said, okay, yes, okay, yeah. And I do this on what now again? Okay, okay, cool. Yes. Proper response. The
Yeah.
response wasn't, so we need you to, man, I've done TV before. Man, we do the local thing, man, I know, 3, 4, 1, 2, man, I count it off. You know what I mean? Like, and which is exactly what you don't do on that show. But you know what
Right.
I mean? But it's like,
Yeah.
that's an example of being a good listener, and I think I did a good job because Eric hasn't punched me yet. So, but it's like, being that's part of being a good, of being successful. Because I can strangely say that now that I feel like I am now successful. For many years, I didn't feel that I was, because I didn't have certain things. I didn't own, a Ferrari or $1 million home, which I guess maybe close now, but no. But I didn't own those things. But I've been in Nashville for almost 24 years, and I haven't had a day job. I built cases once with a buddy of mine who was awesome, and that was talking about a listening and listening. That's one right there. You
Yeah.
building your own cases is really hard.
Yeah, I'll bet.
That's really, really hard. So
Yeah.
shout out to Rodney Edmondson for teaching me how to build road cases, which is
Yeah,
great.
Rodney.
So
Big shout out to Rodney. Yeah, yeah. Love Rodney.
yeah, yeah.
So,
He literally. I went to work with him at Spectrum and learn how to build cases, and he was very, 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 very polite with me. So it was really good. I think he even fired me, but I can't remember if he did or not, or if I just quit.
he
So
fired
I'm
you
gonna
when
say
you
he
went on the
did.
road
So
with, yeah, you went on the road with somebody, so then he fired you. Yeah.
yeah. So, but yeah, you know what I mean. But it's like, I we were talking about, being a good listener and all those things, and one of the things you should listen to is yourself. Uh, and
Yeah.
it's something that I've done a very bad job of doing throughout most of my life because I've been a fairly, I should probably lay on the couch for this one. I've been a fairly insecure man in my life. But I've been, as a musician in Nashville, one of the things that's crazy is that you have all these great players, and it's so hard to not compare your shortcomings to someone else's success, right? Which is crazy to say it because you don't want to. You say, man, why don't I have this? Why don't I have this? And why
Hmm.
does this person have this? I want that. And then you go, well, this person did this, that, and the other. What did you do? Okay, you did most of that. What was your attitude like? Oh, so your attitude wasn't right. That's why this person is doing this, or you're not. Or simply, this person met that person first.
Yeah.
I know you know the same people, but they met that person first.
Yeah. Yeah.
But one of the things you have to do is you have to listen to yourself and say, just because I don't have the biggest gig in the world, or I'm not on the new whatever record that just came out that everybody's raving about, that doesn't mean that you're not successful. That just means you didn't do that. That's just
Yeah.
one thing. That's just one of many things that could be considered successful. So like just breathing, one is being successful, and then two, just having it, being able to make music, even if it's not your full-time job. If it's music, if music is your, you have a part-time job to help supplement music, you're still doing it. And if you're playing in Nashville, if you're playing in New York, if you're playing in places where you're making money, then you're technically a professional. So you are being, and if you are doing that and that's what you want to do, then you are successful. And you have to go, well, I am successful. I may not have this, I may not have done that, but in my path that I'm going right now, I'm successful. I'm happy. I should be happy. If I'm not happy, someone kick me in the face so I can be happy, and let's move on.
Yeah. No, I think that's great, man. It's perspective. Absolutely, man. It's
Yeah,
so it's when you mentioned you've been in Nashville now 24 years and you grew up in Athens, Georgia, I think I saw, right? I
I
think I
did.
read.
Yeah,
Yep, in Athens, which has a great music scene, or I'm sure it still does, but I'm sure it did
yeah.
when you were growing up. I mean, what a great place.
Oh, it was great, man. There was
Yeah.
music everywhere. I mean, it was like, there was like the rock scene. Like that. Athens is known for like the indie rock scene. And
Mm.
then they has like a little underground like local R&B scene, and then it's churches, the whole thing. Growing up, our quote unquote churches were not as they were a little more traditional as far as music goes. They weren't like your contemporary churches up north, that were, had full blown like, concerts going. I remember growing up playing drums with my granddad at church. My grandfather plays Oregon, and he would play kick bass in Oregon, and we would laugh because I felt like every song was a shuffle. But we would we play in church, and
Yeah.
that was my lesson in listening and learning how to follow.
Great.
was that which is funny because like his birthday was yesterday, and I was like, man, like my granddad's actually like my biggest musical influence. Like like I can be like, oh, I love Steve Gadd, I love this person, the other person, but I thought about it, over the course of a few hours yesterday, and I was like, man, like that, my dad's a guitar player and he's great. I love him, but like my granddad to me is like probably my biggest musical influence growing up as a kid because he was very encouraging and he didn't take any mess, so I couldn't speed up or slow down. He'd yell at me. So, so that was that was another one.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's yeah.
but but the cool thing about being in Athens that you had that, and then you could go downtown and you would have your. I mean, when I was a kid, REM was just they were starting to do a thing. B-52s, there were a couple other bands,
Mm,
Watchbred Panic, Randall Bramlett was another one. There were a bunch of like kind of like soul R&B guys. I guess they would call it blue-eyed soul kind of thing that
hmm.
was happening. And then there were two great music stores as a kid. I guess three actually. There was Chick, Piano, Musicians Warehouse, and Nude Sound. And I used to go hang out at those places every day and bother the shit out of people, and all that stuff. But I met a lot of older musicians that were playing, and then my dad's a musician, so he knew some guys. So I was kind of sort of in that thing of like wanting to check it all out. So I didn't want to just be a church drummer. I wanted to kind of do a little bit of everything.
Hmm.
And I feel like that was one of the beautiful things about Athens is that there is a touch of everything there. And then personality wise, there's a touch of everything there. Like there,
Yeah, yeah,
you have everything from college students to old people that have been there forever, to business people, to hippies, to like
yeah,
assholes, whatever,
yeah.
that's everybody's like,
The
you know
gamut.
what I
Yeah.
mean? And they all, and there's a little tiny little music scene slash business there. And so you get to meet those people. And then what happens is you move to Nashville, you just get that times 10 in intensity and in people.
Yeah, yeah,
It's like all of a sudden your little MBA just went from, 20 bands to like 2,000 musicians all wanting the same gig.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
So
exactly. And so how old were you when you started playing drums? And was drums your first instrument?
so drums are technically well, I guess, yeah, I mean, they are my first, yeah, it's my first
Yeah.
instrument. I was about 3 or 4 the first time I started to play. And then I was about 5 or 6. My dad taught me how to play guitar. I had forgotten everything about playing guitar completely. Don't I own one. Thanks to Johnny Rab. Johnny Rab
Oh,
bought me a guitar for Christmas one
oh,
year
I love Johnny Rab.
randomly. It was great.
Oh, that's great.
But yeah, so I started playing drums. Yes, 3 or 4, and obviously like my folks saw that I could keep time, and I was willing to move the drums around. Yeah, as a kid, I've always been a tinkerer. I always like to mess with stuff, and so I was always taking drums apart and putting them back together and destroying them. And my dad's like, gotta buy you another drum. But what's really funny is I don't know I think it's still here somewhere. Oh, it's right here. So check this out. This is if I can reach it. This is the first snare drum my dad bought me.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah, I've
That's so
I've I've
great.
I've modded it. It's a pearl
Jupiter?
from over
Yeah.
steel. It's technically not a Jupiter because it's not the super sensitive thing, but
All
basically it's a
right.
Jupiter.
Okay. Yeah.
And but yeah, so I've yes, the same shell. I've had this drum for 40 years.
Wow. That's so I wish I
Yeah, and
kept yeah, that's great.
so it's pretty funny. It still has like stupid stickers on it. But yeah, that's what's funny is that's snare drum number one. So it is I consider that my snare drum sound if I have one,
Yeah.
I got a
Okay.
snare drum sound. But if I could, if I have to say a snare drum sound, that is the drum. But so anyway, so I still have that from my childhood. So I've brought a bit of Athens, Georgia to Nashville
That's
with me, and so it's been
that's
kind of cool. So
that's awesome, Q. That was my next question was like, do you ever use the drum? And for it to be your number one drum is pretty that's awesome, man. Just to
yeah, no, it's
think
cool.
about
It's
your
it's
dad.
great. Yeah, it's been a few. It's been a few records and a bunch of tours and some. There was a period of time where I didn't use it because I was playing a deeper snare drum, but I forget what that was or why I was doing that. But there was a
Hmm.
time where I went to a 6.5, which is actually really funny. So 2 seconds. Sorry, I'm
Yeah,
detouring this whole thing, but
not at all. No,
uh,
man, this is
so in the eyes of marching matching snare drums, I have the 6.5 version, but this is actually the brass one. And
okay.
Eddie
Yeah.
Bayers gave me the snare drum like 3 weeks ago.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
Yeah, he knew how much I liked the Jupiters and how much I liked the 70s Pearl snare drums, and he was like, "Hey man, I have this. Do you want it?" So,
Eddie is just, man, what an incredible human.
yeah, man, he's on another level, man. So,
Yeah.
and what's funny is, so we're talking about me throwing drums. Uh, talking about being in Nashville, I met Eddie early on, and he was one of the nicest guys to me, and kind of like I wouldn't say like he's my mentor, but like because he's everybody's mentor, you know. But he was super kind in helping me get established and telling me where to go and who to meet, and then putting in a good word with people, like,
Mhm.
oh yeah, hire him, he's great, so or he's good, whatever, you know. So
Yeah. I love that, and I know that about Eddie, and I've heard that about other really established guys in town that aren't, it's not like a cutthroat situation where they feel threatened by a new guy coming into town, and it's like, I just think it's beautiful. It's wonderful that Eddie did that, extended
yeah,
that,
what well, it's kind of like you know what I say about Nashville is that it's a community, not a competition. And so what happens is you come to this place and then you kind of like, you bop around, you ping pong around, and then something sticks, and then you find your people. And then your people for either 2 days or 20 years. You know what I mean? And
Yeah,
then you
yeah.
bop around some more, and then you find more people, and you bop around, and and you find that a bunch of people aren't from here. So it's a bunch of people looking for a musical home and like a home with inside, you know what I mean? Where you're trying to establish who you are. And I keep dropping people's names in this because it's things I've learned from people on the way. But one of the things that Ben Caesar said was that you should establish your quality of life first and then pursue your dreams. Because if not, if there's no foundation there, then you're just going to be broken. You're going to take certain things really hard that may not be hard, or you're not going to understand certain things when you should understand them if you don't have a core that's away from music. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Just knowing you deep inside kind of thing. We're not getting so like deep inside, but you know what I mean? But
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So
That makes a lot of sense. And when you moved to Nashville, did you go there with kind of a wide open slate in terms of like, were you going there to be like a session guy, a touring guy, or just to get there and just get into the scene? Or did you have like a plan?
So yeah, this is where things get kind of funny and weird, right? So I moved to Nashville, and I'd always heard the stories about how everybody's so great here, and how like the guy at Waffle House cooking is a better drummer than you'll ever be. How all these stories, and they are true. You know what I mean? And so my whole thing was like, well, I'm not good enough. I'm not good enough to play music in Nashville. But we'll see what happens. And the way this story goes, the legend goes, is such this. So basically, my dad's buddy had a band in Nashville. They came to play Athens. The drummer didn't show up for whatever reason, so I played drums. And so after the gig, the band leader says, "Hey man, you want to move to Nashville?" I said, "Yeah, I do." And so I talked to my dad about it, and he said, and so because it's a cover band, and I'm 20 years old, and I'm like, cover band. And my dad just goes, well, you like music, so you should do it. I said, yeah, well, what I'll do is I can play in this cover band, until I get a gig as a roadie. Because I love to, like I like to mess with drums. So I was
Yeah,
like, well, I'll play in this cover band until I get a gig as a drum tech. Because that was my goal at the time. Because I was like, I was like, I don't want to go there thinking I'm some hot shot drummer, and just realize I'm not, get discouraged, whatever. So I love working on drums. So let me do that. So anyway, so
great
I
plan.
moved to
Yeah.
Nashville. I'm playing in this cover band, and I'm meeting a bunch of people. My buddy Lee Kelly. I knew JD Blair, and I knew JD Blair and Victor Wooten before I moved. Uh, because I randomly ran into them at a concert and just kind of hounded JD into being a friend, and he was very kind, and we became buddies. So I knew him, and then I just kind of slowly started to just go out every night to meet people. And then after about a year in town of not being a drum tech still, uh I got a call from JD Blair that said, "Hey man, you want to tech for 2 shows with Shania?" And I was like, "Yes, I've made it. This is gonna be great. Like I'm gonna do these two. I'm gonna do these two. The crew chief is gonna see me and he's gonna be like, Keio, you are gonna be drum tech to the stars, right?" So it was 2 TV shows and I did a great job, I think. No one yelled at me, but no one also ever hired me again as a drum tech. So, so, uh, but I had high hopes, it was really great. But so what ended up happening is I played in that cover band for for about a year and a half, and then I started to play on Lower Broadway, and then in the Printer's Alley, and then this guy Dave McAfee saw me playing at Printer's Alley and was like, "Hey man, I know this guy putting together a band. I used to play for him back in the '90s. He's kind of been doing a new thing. I think he'd be perfect for it." I was like, "Okay." So so I ended up playing with this guy Wade Hayes, and that was my first like country artist gig.
Hmm.
And I was like, "All right." So it's like 2002, and I'm like, "Okay, well, all right. No one's yelled at me. I've been fired from this. This is cool. All right, we're good." And so then the year ends, and then the next year Wade doesn't really go out. And I was like, "Okay, well, I'm playing down on Broadway and I just living was cheap. It was just me. All right, we're good, blah, 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 blah." And then like I ended up getting these random gigs throughout the year with like this guy, Mark McGuinn, and several other people through that year. And I was like, "Oh, this is how you do it. You piece things together."
Yeah, that's so funny.
Like, oh, you just, like I don't have the Kenny Chesney gig. I don't have, I have a huge gig. So my deal is I have to piece things together to make a year. Oh, okay, I get it. And so in doing that I did that for a few years until I got the Rodney Crowell gig, which was like 2004, 2005. And I did that gig off and on for about 10 years. And then I just started doing just random stuff again of piecing it together, blah, 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 blah. And then 2014 was like kind of a weird, crazy year which is when I started playing with Big and Rich, which lasted for about 8 years. I just recently left that gig about a year and a half ago to focus on playing mostly in town and doing sessions. But that's kind of a long roundup, I mean, a short roundabout of my life. But in between all of that, there's this long list of people I got to play
Yeah,
with.
it's great. It's
While piecing together those years, I kind of became a big sub guy. I was, if your drummer couldn't make it, then I was like the Mikey of gigs. It's like, call Keo, he'll do it. And I would learn
yeah.
24 songs in 60 minutes and go play them. So
I
it
wanted to
was
get to
kind of,
that because I remember you talking about that. Like that's incredible. Like you've become this reliable go-to guy is what it is. And I'm just cracking up at your story because, like the idea, I totally get it. Like you were thinking you wanted a job as a drum tech for um, some amount of stability of like, I'm going to go out on tour for 3 months or 6 months and I'll get a good steady paycheck. But meanwhile, you're like getting all these gigs because you're a freaking great drummer. It's like it's pretty comical. You know what I mean? It's like, man, I keep
I
getting
was
these calls
very,
for,
yeah.
yeah, I keep getting calls to do these gigs when I'm waiting for that drum tech call to come in.
Yeah. I mean, that was true, man. I was just like, well, okay, well, and I'm a I love to absorb information. You can talk to my friends. Or it's like Keo knows way too much stuff about nothing. Like it's just stupid things that people shouldn't know. This guy knows, including songs, because I've learned so many. So it's like you could call like some strange like Vern Gosdin song, and I'd be like, "Oh yeah, I know that one." And somebody's like, "Who the hell's Vern Gosdin?" You know what I mean? Or
Yeah.
it'd be like some like weird Wilson Pickett song, So I love information, so I guess I'm an information junkie. So so when people would be like, "Hey man, here's 16 songs, can you go play tomorrow?" I was like, "Yeah, yeah, no problem."
Wow.
And I would, it's a true story, and it's just 87% correct. I would be 87%, which is passing.
Yeah.
And then there were
Yeah.
and then there were some gigs where, it depends on, how it depends on what I got, and there's certain things you miss because board tapes don't show like visual cues.
Hmm.
Which is a funny one I had a few years ago. I was out with someone, and they were great. I got to sub with Cody Johnson, and I've known those guys for a long time, and it was so fun. And I came out no rehearsal, but they gave me the board tapes, they gave me charts, everything, and it's great. And but the one thing that we kind of sort of didn't think about was that like Cody cued some certain things so I can't see them.
Yeah. Yeah.
So like on a board tape you can't see it. So I remember we were going through a song at sound check, and I came in early for something, and they were like, "Oh no no oh Cody will cue that," and I was like, "Oh shit, okay cool." So
Okay.
then you just
Yeah.
go, "Okay,
Yeah.
Cody cues,"
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
what was really cool, and I this is one of the cool things I like about that guy, and working with Cody and the band and the whole organization, is that after sound check, we sat down and we listened to the board tape, and he just kind of gave me his cues of what he was doing during the show. Like, hey man, like I typically want to do this here, or I'll start this here, or I cue a downbeat here, or blah blah blah. And it's cool because a lot of artists, especially at his level, would never sit down with a drummer and be like, "Hey, man," and not like a mean, like
Yeah.
it wasn't like I had like a sit down. It wasn't like you haven't done your homework, son. No, take this beating. It wasn't that. It was like, "Hey, man, like you want to win, I want to win. If you're cool with it, let's just go over this." And I was like, "Absolutely." He was like, "Oh, cool," and we
Yeah.
did, and we didn't sit there for the whole 90 minutes, but there were certain songs. He was like, "Hey, man, on this, I like to do that," or you'll see, the key for this is that. And it was cool because, and it wasn't like I didn't get like 90% of the information from the drummer. I did, but there was just that little 10% of things that were kind of important that he does it every day, so he doesn't think about it, kind of thing. And but once again, I sat there, I shut my mouth and I listened. Even things I
Yeah.
knew, I was like, "Oh yeah, I know that's a blah blah blah." I was like, "We're like, yeah, and you're gonna do this." And I go, "Okay, yeah,
Yep.
all right, cool." And then we went out and played, that weekend, went out and played three flawless shows, and it was great, So yeah, anyway,
No, that's great.
but
Again, I'll just say he obviously knew you could do it, and he wanted to just. I think that's great because it shows that he wanted to invest a little bit of his time to just get you that ten
yeah,
percent to make it perfect. You know what I mean? Like he could have on the other hand
exactly.
just gone like, ah man, these shows are going to be a wash. Let's just deal with it. And like if I were the drummer, he'd
Yeah.
go, we can't help this guy. Let's just get through the weekend and deal with it. No, but he knew
No.
he could get you over the finish line a lot easier, just taking that time. That says a
Yeah.
lot. Yeah.
Man, which is cool, man, because like, one of the things I always say, and I think this goes for everybody, and it goes back to being the fucking nice person, all that stuff. I just said fucking anyway, nice person, all that. But the whole thing is that my job is to provide comfort. My job as a drummer, as a human, is to provide comfort for the people that I'm around and that I'm working with. And one of the things I like to hear from people when I suffer from them is that I forgot you were back there. And I go, cool. It wasn't like I forgot that the drums are back there. It was like
Yeah.
I felt comfortable,
Yeah.
and I wasn't looking over my shoulder thinking, man, I really wish my drummer was here. I was
Yeah.
saying I just played the show as normal, and then when I walked off stage, I said, "Who is that on drums? I've never seen them before." Which has
No.
happened. That's,
Yeah.
I mean, I've gone
Well,
on a sub gig before and not met the artist until after the show. Like it's happened.
yeah.
I
I
mean, I
believe it.
think
I believe it.
I I think the first time I played with Hank Jr., I met Hank the next day.
No kidding.
Actually,
Oh man.
So, yeah, yeah,
What was
yeah.
that
I
like?
think
That
it was
must
the next day.
Yeah, that must have been unbelievable too. But no, but
It was fun, man.
yeah, you make a great point, Keo, that the idea is to just like have it be seamless and not have the artist be thinking like, man, is this new drummer gonna know to do this like we like he didn't have to think about it though. It was just like, yeah,
Yeah.
that's the ideal. That's the best job you could ever do right there.
Yeah, and and also something that it doesn't work on every gig, but you are you, and the other person you're subbing for is who they are. So, and it's almost like it's gonna sound kind of silly, but all right, drummers, lead singers, right? In my opinion, those two chairs are two things that can be interchanged and the band still be the band,
Hmm.
but personalities are there. Where you
Yeah,
feel things, where you place things are gotta be there. Singers and drummers. That's the one those are the two positions in a band that I think can severely alter and not in a bad way, but just alter the feel of a band. You know what I mean? So it's like anytime your favorite singer of rock band X goes away and they get a replacement in, people always go, they're not the same. Da, da, da. It's like, no, it's the same. It just feels different. That person's doing their interpretation of themselves and they're not doing the other person.
yeah,
Like one of my favorite things is like watching Paul Rogers with Queen. You
yeah.
know, Paul Rogers is 100% Paul Rogers with Queen.
Right.
You know
Good
what I mean? You
example.
know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah,
He wasn't trying to be Freddie Mercury because he's
yeah.
not him.
Right.
And just in some ways that's massive respect also, you know, and that's also being secure in who you are and doing your thing, going, hey man, I'm not him. I can't be him. I can be me. I can sing, I can perform these songs and people will love these songs.
Yeah,
I'm sure
yeah.
Paul Rogers said people will love these songs. I don't know. But you know what I mean? And so the same thing happens for a drummer where drum fills are the way I grew up playing drums. Drum fills are an expression. So basically the groove pattern is you trucking along, doing your thing, and then the drum fills are your expression to the next section. So it's like, oh, hey, I have to get off, I gotta do this, so I do a drum fill and they're feels that are natural to you. There are feels that are unnatural. There's obviously there's certain things where if you're playing like Ain't Too Proud to Beg, do the get to bang, if you
Yeah.
said the black the ding, you're like not the right wrong song.
Motown, baby. Yeah, yeah.
Wrong song.
You
But
got to do that. Yeah,
but if you're playing a tune and you're chucking along and say the record, say it was like boom, bop, doom, got, doom, got, doom, doom, boom, right? And say you play it and you're subbing and you don't remember that drum field, but there's a field there, and you go doom, got, doom, 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 ba. Like no one should be mad about that because you're not, you're first of all, it's close, and second of all, that's your interpretation of that feel because
yeah,
it's a feel. I feel I take feeling as like not filling something up, but feeling as into the feeling into the next section as opposed to feeling. I like to say feel into the next section of the song, which then is where your personality comes out. You know what I mean? And
yeah,
you don't have
yeah,
to be yell at people, but you know what I mean. But you can have your subtle things, and so a lot of times when I end up subbing gigs, those things will happen. Like where like I may not play the drum fill going into whatever exactly like the last guy because one maybe I didn't learn it. Don't tell anybody. Two, I just forgot about it. It's like
yeah,
I have these other like 25 songs that I gotta remember, and I'm sorry I don't remember that one little thing. That's not gonna make or break the song. But if it's something very important, they usually stand out and you play it anyway because it's like lyrics. It's like, oh, it's she's a brick house. Cool.
yeah,
Boom.
yeah.
All right. I can't change the words to that. You know what I mean? So, but anyway,
Well,
sorry.
no,
Babbling.
this is great, man. What you're talking about is gold, and it's a perfect segue to what I want to talk about, which is um, some recordings that you've done with Keb Mo, which I've been so digging over the weekend, and
Oh,
I'd like,
nice.
yeah, absolutely, it's just some beautiful work that you've done there, Keio. And I want to play one song right now. And this is a song called "The Worst Is Yet to Come." I know you know it, and I'm guessing other people know it too. Um, this is a great track, and I'll play the song, and then maybe we can just take a few minutes and talk about this. And I just would love
Yeah,
to just
totally.
pick your brain on like how you came up with some of these ideas, and it's just chock full of great stuff. So check it out, everybody. This is Keio Stroud, Keb Mo's "The Worst Is Yet to Come," and just the title alone, I knew it was going to be a great song before I even listened to it. But it's great. Here we go.
Woke up this morning, wrong side of the bed. Ever happened that night, I'm feeling it in my head. Lord have mercy. And the day ain't even begun. Well, I got a bad, bad feeling that the worst is yet to come. Didn't get no breakfast, didn't get no lunch, but I did get 2 weeks notice. They're gonna close the factory up. Now have mercy. And the day ain't even done. Oh yeah. Well, I got a bad, bad feeling that the worst is yet to come. Look out, y'all. Driving in my car, heading on down the road. Looked in the rearview mirror, nothing but a trail of black smoke. Lord have mercy. Lord, what have I done? Well, I got a bad, bad feeling that the worst is yet to come. Now the sun keeps on shining, just like it should, yeah. When I take a look around me, I guess I'm doing pretty good. Got back to my house, opened up the door. She took everything I had, and the dog took a shit on the floor. Lord have mercy. Even the bed bugs up and run. But I got a bad, bad feeling that the worst is yet to come.
Yeah, Keio, man, take a bow, brother. Wow, really,
Thank you.
just my pleasure, man. So, okay, many questions here. Who's
All
the
right.
bass player? I meant to ask you that first of all. Who the bass player is? Do you remember?
Oh, you know what's
Who?
funny? I don't know. I think it's Keb actually. Because So we tracked this song several times.
Yeah. Okay.
And so we I remember going down. Actually, it's funny. This was the first song we did on that record, and or on that album, I should say. But so initially I played it by myself to just Keb's vocal.
Okay. That was, yep. So you
So it
played,
was
yep.
like it was just going to be like vocal, like so the whole thing was this. He was doing this record called Blues Americana, and it was going to be all acoustic, right? And then I ruined it. He basically called. He was like, he called me and said, "Hey, I'm doing this record. Like, come over and play drums. I think it's going to be an acoustic record. So, like, basically, if you suck, it's going to be an acoustic record. But if you don't, I'm going to make a full record out of it, kind of thing, right?" So I come over. I went over, and we played this song, and it was vocal. It was vocal click and resonator actually, and then drums. And so for whatever reason, I forgot what I was listening. I was listening to something, and I just sat down on the drum kit and I went, Jack got got right. And he stops me. He just goes, "That's it. We're making a record." And I was like, "Okay, cool." Okay, cool.
Wow, man. Yeah.
And so we did, and so you know, that was that snare drum fill became the theme of the song,
Yeah.
but that snare drum fill is also on the record. More, it happens a few more times on the record, in certain little spots. Uh, but it's so goofy though. But I think it is. I think it's Keb playing bass on it. If it's not Keb, then it's uh oh my God. Then it's Val, I think, if it's not Keb. Uh I should call. Hey Keb, who played bass on this? Um
It's a great bass part, man. Your drum part, that drum part is so great. And I was thinking, you've created this drum part that anybody that ever plays with Keb in the future is going to have to, like, they're going to have to play your part. You know what I mean? Like you said, that becomes a signature part of that song. That intro is, I kept replaying it, just that part, that rap, that, boom, and it goes from there. It's, yeah. And so
cool.
you answered the first
Yeah.
part of that question, because so you tracked it to a click, and then Keb or somebody came on and laid the bass on top of it. But it
Yeah.
feels so great, Keo. It feels like you and the bass player are playing it together. I mean, it has that real
Oh,
locked
sweet.
kind of feel, you know?
Man, it was cool. I mean, what was so I played it was okay. I remember, if I remember correctly on this, because we
I know it was a
played
while
it by
ago. Yeah.
myself, and then they came in and played everything else on, and then I came back and replayed it. But we kept all the snare drum fills, so I just went back and played the groove. So we
Okay.
kept all the snare drum, all the snare drum fills, and then I went back and played the grooves on it. I think I remember that being the way that went down. But yeah, man, it was so much fun, and working with Kevin was so cool because first of all, he knows what he wants, right? So, and you don't know what he wants, but he knows what he wants. So he tells you, this is this is what I want.
Yeah,
And
that's good.
you do it, right? Kind of
Yeah.
thing. And you do it with your intensity and your feel, which is why you're
Yeah.
there to do it. And one of the things that he taught me, that I learned, and that I take with me now, is that the vocal is king. So don't cover up the money,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
So drum fills, you either, if you listen to that record, all the snare drum fills happen before he starts a vocal pickup.
Yep.
They don't happen at the same time, or they happen after.
Yeah.
And he was really, really big on that. And I was very confused because in some of the music that I've played, people want you to accent with the vocal. And he was like, stay out of the way, right?
Yep.
I was like, all right, well, that's cool. So that was a big learning tool. Or when you do something like that, make sure that you accent and you don't cover up. So he was really big on that. And then the tom fill thing that happens in the groove, that was his idea. Because I played something and he was like, I like that. Let's do that between all the phrases. So we kind of like, it sounds strange, but we kind of like came up with like the perfect drum part.
No, you absolutely did. It's not strange. I'm glad you said that.
I mean, I know it
It really
sounds
is.
so bad to say that about yourself, but I feel like we kind of we did. By the way, the bass player is Brian Allen, who played bass on that.
Okay, great,
So
great. Thanks for
yeah,
thanks for
who's a great bass player.
yeah.
It's
So
right. I
and the
sent a text.
Tom
I was like, who played on that?
those little Tom fills were overdubbed, Keo. You put those on afterward, or those were you played those
No,
during
I
the
played
group.
them in the groove.
You played
I
those
put
in
them
the
in the
group
groove. Yeah, it was dude,
right
got,
in time.
dude,
Yeah,
got, dude.
yeah.
And this is what's really funny is that drum is a 10-inch tom.
Wow,
It
it
sounds
sounds.
like a floor tom.
It does. It sounds much bigger. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
That on that record, it's the toms are 8, 10, and it's a 22-inch kick drum.
Tune
And the
obviously
snare drum
tune.
is an accurate.
Yeah, and you get the
Yeah.
10 tune nice
Everything's
and
too
low, and it's
low.
yeah, yeah. It's
Yeah.
perfect
And the
because
snare
it
drum
doesn't
was
ring too long. Yeah,
yeah. And the snare drum was an acrolite, I think, on that one.
yeah.
So yeah,
So
just
back to
random.
the drum part. No, that's great. That's all great stuff. Back to the drum part. So you didn't have he didn't play like a demo of a drum machine or something. He just like let you
No.
come up with something and go, and you came up with that intro, and that set the tone really for it. I mean, that was
Nah.
yeah. Well
Yeah, it was
done,
weird.
my
I mean, he
man.
said what's so crazy is like to me, what's so funny, we're talking about self-confidence and being successful and all those fun things. One of the coolest things about doing this record was that it boosts my self-confidence. And because of and I was working with this great dude who had never worked with before. I met Keb on a cruise ship. So we met on the Keio cruise ship where I
Yeah,
actually sat in and played drums on during his set, but it was just me and him just kind of and I was just kind of like tinkering around kind of thing.
yeah.
In the most professional way, by the way. But tinkering around. Uh so and and I have like high respect for Keb, and I've known drummers that worked with him before. I've heard about how he operates, and very much like working with Rodney Crowell, where like those guys can hire anybody they want to. So if they call you, you're supposed to be there, kind of thing.
Hmm.
And so not knowing, not never really working with Kevin in the studio, I didn't really know what to expect. So I just kind of went in with like this freedom of like, well, I'm just gonna play this weird drum fill, and if he likes it, he likes it. If he doesn't, he doesn't. And he liked it. So we can, and and there are plenty of things I did that day that he did not like, but but he
Well,
did like that one.
that's yeah,
You know?
that's a good message too. Yeah, exactly. That it's not always not everything that the artist is going to love, but he liked that, and that's
Yeah,
I'm gonna play another song,
yeah,
and this is
yeah.
this is from a different record. This is Keb Mo again. That's Who I Am from Taj Mo, and which record was the first? Like, what was The Worst Is Yet to Come? The first time you
That
worked
was
with him?
the worst is yet to come was the first one. Yeah,
It was the first
that's the
one.
Blues Americana was the first record, and that
Yeah.
was the
Okay.
first song that he and I ever did also. Yeah,
Great, man.
and this
Well,
was the first song we tracked on the Taj Mo record.
great.
So.
Okay. Perfect. All right. Well, I love this tune as well. Here we go. That's Who I Am. Keio Stroud on drums. Keb Mo.
I'm a preacher, I'm a sinner, I'm a loser, I'm a winner. I got everything, I got nothing, but I'm a fool for some real good loving. I was looking for myself when I found you, and your love was all around. Now I can't see my life without you. Oh, that's who I am. That's who I am right now. I'm a lover. I'm a fighter.
man, that song. Can I just give you my thoughts on it? Besides, it's
Please.
it's epic. First of all, your playing is epic. It's so you sound so much more like confident and like seasoned, if that's even the right word. And that's why I asked which one was first, and it makes more sense that this was the later one because you sound like first of all you're playing a little bit more, which is great because all the little things you're doing are so tasty. Like not overplaying at all, but just like little spots where you're putting stuff in. And I love the four on the floor and the bass drum, and then occasionally like an extra bomb, a little extra note, just for accent. It's no, I mean Keio, you sound like a session guy that's been doing it for 30 years on that song. You
Oh,
really do.
thank you.
You got all the right hits, all the right spots, man. Bravo.
Oh, thanks, man.
Yeah.
Thank you. I will take it. Man, that one was fun because that was when I got the call for this one. We it was like, oh yeah, Keb Mo and Taj Mahal are gonna do a record together, and I was like, oh, okay, all right, well, whatever, cool, sounds great. And it wasn't even that. Actually, it said I think the initial call was, hey, Keb calls, hey, what are you doing, big head? Oh, nothing. He just goes, what are you doing tomorrow? Nothing. Man, Taj is in town. We're gonna do some recording. I want you to come play drums. Okay, cool. All right. See you tomorrow, man. And I show up and it's Tommy Sims playing bass, who's fantastic.
Yeah.
Uh, and Michael Hicks is on keys. I can't remember who else played guitar other than I think maybe Phil Hughley is on guitar on this one, and then Keb, and then Taj played resonator. And we tracked it all. I mean, it was like everybody going down kind of thing. Um, and we had played it a couple times, and it was one of those things where it's like we're just trying to figure it out. And I remember we were walking out, and Todd just looks at me. He just goes, "Hey, drama." I was like, "Hey, man." he just goes, he goes, "Do your thing, do your thing." And I was like, "Okay, all right." As I'm walking, I'm like, "What's my thing? What's my thing?" I have no idea. And
Oh,
so,
that's great.
and and it's one of those things where it's like, as soon as we counted off 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, bah, okay. And it was just that kind of thing. And I had in my brain, I kind of had like this like dirty laundry kind of vibe thing.
Yeah,
That's what I
yeah,
was thinking about as I was playing it.
yeah.
And I was like, oh, okay, okay. And then as we were playing it, I was like, we're gonna do it again because I know how I know I've made records there. I know how this works. I said, so I'm gonna take some liberties. So so I did.
Yeah, good man.
And and what's really goofy is I can tell you where they all kind of came from. So uh if you remember in the second verse, there's a hi-hat thing and I hit the bell.
Yeah, yeah.
So
16th note thing.
that
Yeah,
is
yeah.
yeah. So that's Larry London, O'Sherry.
Yeah, of
That's where
course.
that came from.
Yes. Yeah, good. Yeah, that's okay.
so so there's that one. And then going into the solo section, you hear bop 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 with four kicks, right?
Yeah,
And that came from Love and Happiness, Al Green,
yeah,
because it just kicks off with the
yeah. Was that Al Jackson on
right.
drums? Al Jackson Jr.
I
Probably.
think so, yeah.
Probably. Yeah,
And I think that was just someone stumping on a board or something. But that's where that that's where those kind of things come
yeah,
from. And then there was something else that I can't remember. Oh, there was a the back half of the last chorus is a kind of a weird wobbly drum fill. And that happened because I got lost.
Oh, I love it. The truth comes out. I love it. It was a happy. It was a
Happened
happy.
because I got lost. So
Uh,
there I was
oh
in the
man.
woods with my machete. Where am
Oh,
I?
oh my God. No, and so you
But
did you and you read music then, Keio, right? I mean, you chart some of this
I
stuff
do,
out.
yeah.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
can write,
okay.
yeah. But this was, what's goofy about this stuff is it wasn't charted. That was like, I didn't have a chart for this at all. Uh, if I remember correctly on this one, none of us had charts actually.
Wow.
We had there was like a chord progression thing I think someone had chord charts, and then I had nothing. Only thing I had a blank piece of paper, and I think I wrote intro, verse. I wrote the format of the song, and that was it. But like no bars or anything. It was
Yeah.
just like a song title maybe, and then like the form of the tune. And so I remember when we were coming out of the solo section, I was like, okay, is this a verse or is this a bridge or is this a chorus? I can't remember. Oh, is this and I was like, all right, okay, cool, kind of thing. And I was just like, oh, this is where I'm at, I was gonna say, don't tell Kevin that, but he knows now. But but it was just funny, like, but yeah, it was. I remember like there was no charts for those. We just so it was like it was memory because
Yeah.
a lot of times when working with Kevin over there, which is great, we'll play something 10 times.
Mhm.
He's old school, and I like it, because he likes to get the sounds happening, and he likes to get you going, get you warmed up, and you're rocking, and I was probably take number four, I think maybe on that one because we were kind of filling it out and trying to get some things happening.
Yeah.
But that's probably my favorite. That's probably one of my favorite songs I've played on like in my entire life. Like uh, sometimes I'll be at the grocery store and it comes on, and I'm like, yeah,
That's got to feel so amazing.
yeah.
Yeah, that's got to be like good
And
for
I
you,
mean, because
man.
it's weird
Yeah.
because like, it's not a big pop hit or anything, but it's like, it's like I wish I was Matt Chamberlain and heard myself all the time on the radio, but one day. So.
Yeah, one day, and I'm so glad to hear you say that about it because you're such a humble guy. You are, and what I know of you, you're so humble, and you should feel proud of that because man, that's like some really beautiful.
It was fun, man. It was
Yeah,
well. Anytime I get to work, well, I'll just say this, man. Like anytime you walk into a room and you have the caliber of players of Tommy Sims, Michael Hicks, Keb Mo, Taj Mahal, what I mean, and
yeah,
the engineer on that one, I think Casey was an engineer and he was another great drummer singer, also. So it's like you walk into a room of greatness and you like have to like you gotta bring it. You know what I mean? It's like it's like being
yeah,
on the it's like being on the court. At the NBA. It's like
yeah.
you got to bring it. No one
You
sucks there.
got to bring your A
So,
game.
so you can't be that guy. You can't be that
Exactly.
guy just like, well, I'm happy to be here. Uh, but no, it was cool, man. It was fun because like everybody was super inspiring. It was a very like inspirational thing. And I remember like we did that one. We did like two or three songs that day, and I just remember after every take feeling good. Like I left there not knowing what it was for, and then feeling good, and then some other buddies like Marcus Finney and some other guys played on some of that record. And then I remember it coming out. And then it was like, oh, this record came out. And I was like, oh. And they were like, yeah, you're on these songs. So I was like, oh, cool.
That's pretty great.
And then
Wow.
Marcus did the tour and he was talking about drum fills and he said he goes every night he had to go. First of all, the words you have to come is jack, get out. But then he had to do the gat, do, going into the. So, I thought it was dumb, but he goes, Kev loves it. And I go, actually, I secretly love that feel too. I play it all the time, but it doesn't always translate. But I'm glad at that moment it did.
Yeah,
So,
perfectly. I got to say, you mentioned
yeah,
Matt
that was fun.
Chamberlain. I got to show this picture,
Yeah.
this picture of us, our epic lunch at PASIC last year.
Yes.
It was,
Yeah.
and
Him and
everybody,
Dax. Yeah.
and Dax Nielsen, everybody watching at home, Matt Chamberlain, myself, Dax Nielsen, Keio, of course. We had this great lunch at PASIC, and then we took this group photo at the end of it, and like Matt pretended he didn't even know us. It's like Dax and Keio and I are hugging it out, and there's Matt going, who are you guys again? I don't think I know
Yeah.
you. He's not a hugger. It's all right. It's all right.
That
We
that
love
was a
Matt.
great man. That was a great time, man. Like that was.
It
Thanks
was.
for inviting me to sit down with you guys. That was
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm glad you could
that
do
was
it.
so much fun, and
That
yeah.
was
And
great.
Dax and I have been friends for years, so it was cool to catch up with him. And Matt and I have known him. I've known of Matt obviously my entire life since I was a child. I've known I've known of Matt, but we have a mutual buddy in Bryson uh Nelson that has the Nelson Drum Shop in
Oh
Nashville, who
yeah.
also
Yeah. I
tech
love that shop.
for Matt. So he kind of connected us together and was like, "Oh man, you guys will hit it off. You guys will have a good time." And so we hung out a couple days, and so it was cool to kind of sit. It was nice to sit down and not have a bunch of people around, and then also no
Yeah.
drums around. For us all to like just kind of chat. That was really cool. So I
I
enjoyed
enjoyed
that.
it.
And then
Me
obviously,
too. Yeah.
yeah, and seeing you, man. I've known you for 20 years, 20 plus years. So it's fun to see and actually get a chance to hang out with you. At all the shows, you were always so busy because you had all the dudes and you were the dude, so you were always doing your thing. But it was really nice to sit down and get to talk to you about all the crazy
Likewise.
stuff, including the Beatles record and all that, or the Beatles song that came out and all that stuff. So
That's right. That's right. We talked about that. Yeah, I remember it just being a great drummer hang, and it was so like organic the way we were just all going, let's go get some food. Yeah, you got time? I got time. And you're like, yeah, I got time. So let's go. And it was perfect.
yeah, it was
And
great, man. So yeah, so thanks
oh,
for that, man. That was fun.
absolutely, Keio. And now you and Dax and Matt have been on my show. So it's like I got all the bases
Look at
covered.
that.
So I'm a happy camper.
There we go. We should like dress up as the three amigos for like Halloween. Me, Matt, and Dax. That'd be great.
I love it. I love it. Well, will you be at PASIC? You go every year, right, to PASIC, pretty
I
much.
try to go every year, man. It's my, I grew up going to PASIC. That was my little fun thing that I would do every year. Since I was like eighth grade. There was a period where I was busy and I couldn't go, but I try to go all the time, and I love it because it's a good organization. It's actually
Yeah.
good. It's a great organization.
Yeah.
And it's helped. I learned so much from going to PASIC as a kid about being a professional musician, knowing how to carry myself in front of people. Sometimes I fail at that, but I do a pretty good job.
I think you do a great
Sometimes,
job.
it was always a great education and hang, and a good way to just to meet people, like where you can come. Like sometimes people come at people strictly for connections, and by connections in the business, and then there's time where people just hit it off and you become friends.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
like I crack up because like I met Andy Zildjian at a PASIC many years ago, and he's like I say he's one of my best friends. He doesn't know that, but he's a really he's a good buddy of mine.
That's great.
But he's like he is my friend and Stanky and a bunch of guys that I've met, yourself and people that I've met over the years, like Aaron Vistria and John Farquhar and those guys. Uh, I've met over the years, and like Chad Brandolini, I met when I was like 18 years old, which is like, it's like,
It says
you know what I mean?
something.
So
Yeah.
it's like so it's like it was cool because I feel like growing up in that world, that's and not that being strictly my upbringing, but growing up going to those things, like NAM and then PASIC, uh, I learned a lot about being in the music business.
Yeah.
I learned about Steve Ferroni, who's one of my heroes. Like being able to sit down, and hang with Steve Ferroni or with Matt Chamberlain, or with whoever, that, Glenn Cochi, that's how you pronounce his name, but he was there
Yeah.
and he was
Yeah.
so fun, like I got to sit there and like chat with him. I love that, or El Negro. So it was all these names I keep dropping. I'm just gonna be crazy in my house here, but it's like it was really cool to as a kid to grow up seeing those people. I remember I met Ed Thigpen when I was a young kid at PASIC, and he was so kind and
He
and
was
very
such a great
nice.
guy. Yeah.
I remember, I met Armand Zildjian.
Yeah.
I met
Yeah.
him. I met Bob. Both were hilarious. I have a great photo somewhere. I'll send it to you of me and Armand.
Yeah.
I'm like 18 years old, and it was like PASIC in Orlando.
Oh yeah, yeah, 98.
I have a great, yeah, I have a great photo of me and him, and I have another funny one of me and Terry Bozzio. I think that's pretty goofy, like because it's like he looks terrified, and he's like, "Who's this kid?" I'm like, "Ah."
No, but you know it's cool. I think what you're getting at is that like now you're like all these guys you're talking about, these drummers that you grew up, like loving them as like being influential, like they're your peers now. You know what I mean? You can sit and hang out with Horacio or Glenn Cochi
Yeah,
or Matt or any of the guys and they look at you as an equal, like you're a guy on the
yeah.
scene. That's
It's
great, man.
crazy to even think
Yeah.
about that too. You know what I mean? It's like even like, that scene, even in Nashville, like I was talking about having, breakfast with Eddie Bears or hanging out with Near Z or those guys. It's like I remember just being a kid, just seeing them in Modern Drummer, and like Milton Sledge and all those guys. I was like, man, I want to be like these guys. And then all of a sudden, like they're your Facebook friends, you follow each other on Instagram, you text every now and then,
Yeah.
you go to Drum Paradise and there's Eddie, whoever, going through their stuff. Becoming friends with Chris McHugh was hilarious and fun. And it's just kind of, it's interesting because like I never thought I would see myself there. I should say this. I always thought I'd see myself as hopefully being successful at something. But I never thought in a million years that like I could call Eddie Bears and not talk about drums. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
Or I could call, Ben Caesar and we can talk about some,
Yeah.
the most random shit in the world.
Yeah.
Or like
Yeah.
I have a text message thread with Lester Stell, Marcus, Stephen Keith, Derek Phillips, and Hubert Payne, and we talk every day about nothing.
Yeah. That's great, man. That's yeah.
And everything at the same time. I have a couple of those. I've done with Ben and Kevin Murphy and a bunch of guys also that we have, but it's just fun that, you can, that to be in the know with all those great people, you know what I mean? It's like, it's cool
Yeah.
because you're like, man, like these are like, first of all, they're
They're
my friends.
they're your
I don't care
friends.
about what their
Yeah.
status in the world, but they're my friends. And then sometimes you just pinch yourself. You're like, man, I'm friends with Lester Estelle. Or
Yeah.
I just got a text message from Booker T. Jones. Like, what?
Man.
You
I
know what I
know.
mean?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Just like just things like that are just kind of goofy to me. Because I tell people when I wake up every morning, I'm still like this 18-year-old kid that's like hungry and ready to, to like take on the world to some degree. And then I get up and I'm like, oh my God, I'm 43 and my back hurts. But it's just so interesting to me that like I made it to a point. I made it to a spot that I never thought I'd be in my life, and I'm very happy for it. And I'm super super thankful for all of my friendships with everybody that I have. In the business, not in the business. I got a great kid. She's like 17.
Oh, great.
All these fun things. It's like one of those things where it's like it's hard to be negative when you have a lot of great things, even though
Yeah.
sometimes I
Yeah.
get pretty dark and want to smash shit. But for the most part,
We all
I
do.
don't do
We all do. No, but it's
that.
nice to hear you say that you're thankful for all these, like you've got a great life and you've got all these great people in your life and you're thankful and that shows. You know what I mean? You you ooze this positive energy whenever I see you. You're laughing and you're making people laugh. You're always making people laugh. So
I like
not
doing it. It's fun. It's
yeah.
fun.
Yeah, and your playing
You
doesn't
know,
make
it's
people laugh. I just want to make sure you know that your playing does not make my
well, I don't
my
know. It depends on the
playing.
day.
My playing makes
It
people laugh.
depends on the day. So this is so funny. You laugh about this, and this is one of those fun moments. So I put a gig yesterday with some friends, and it was all original music for the most part that my buddy Sam has, and they called me last minute, and they're like, "Hey man, can you do it?" It's like 13 songs. I was like, "Yeah." Well, I've been on this whole kick lately of putting my ride cymbal like here. So like basically playing open-handed, but
Yeah.
I'm not playing open-handed. So it's more like the Bernard Purdy thing.
Okay. Yeah.
And so I have the ride cymbal here. but I like it because I can play it with both hands. So like if I have to put like a tom thing, I like it because I can play ride cymbal and then play the tom thing like this, as opposed to doing this and crossing over my body,
Hmm.
which may have shown or not. But anyway, and so I show up, I put the ride cymbal right there, do a thing, and then we do "I Feel Fine" by the Beatles, and it
Oh,
has
yeah,
that same pattern as like the Ray Charles tune. And I haven't
yeah.
crossed my hands and played that yet, so I'm going ding 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 ding. I just started laughing at myself. So then I was like, "Hey, dumbass, there's another symbol right here. Just move your hand over." I go, "Cool." So,
Yeah.
so I go there and I'm like, all right.
Oh my God.
Oh, I'm not doing this very well. Maybe back over here.
Oh, at least your shoulder. Yeah, if you playing it that way though, I gotta think your shoulder's gonna like at a point go, ah. Yeah.
I
Oh,
was laughing because
that's so funny.
I'm not at the point where I can play that pattern with my left hand on the right cymbal. So I had to play on my right, and I'm just like, oh no.
Yeah, that's a hard pattern, man. That's a hard the way he plays
It
it.
was hard. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, I mean, it was cool, and I had the best part is I had a lot of fun, and the rest of the band was laughing at me while because I was also laughing. And after the gig, I was like, I gave one of those. I was like, you know what? No one should play Beatles songs except for the Beatles.
Right. Right on. Yeah.
If it's not come together, I don't want to play it.
Oh man.
So
Well,
it
Keio,
was that's a fun moment of people laughing at my playing, and it was mostly me laughing at it. But
that's fair enough. But man, this has been so great. I thank you so much for being here today with me. This has been, as I
thanks,
knew it would
man.
be, informative, and I knew we'd have tons of laughs along the way. So
Wow, I like to laugh. Laughing is the key to life, man. You know what I mean?
yeah,
It's like during the pandemic, I started this whole thing where I would wake up and the first thing I did was I would find some sort of comedy thing on YouTube or something. And I would watch it like 15 minutes. So the first thing I did was I just laughed first thing in the morning.
that's great.
And it just totally set the pace of the day. Cause at that time we're all like, doing our thing and everybody's kind of losing their minds a little bit. But I started my day off laughing and it was awesome. And then every now and then throughout the day, I would just put on some different little comedy bits or listen to music or whatever. And it just kept me going. It kind of kept me going through that year. And I was like, this is a good thing. I'm going to keep doing it. So I still do it. When I wake up in the morning is I just watch, I don't even look at my text messages or missed calls. I just like go and find something funny, like comedy, blah, blah, blah. Just type, and I sit there and I have a good laugh. I have a chuckle. And then my body cracks as I get out of bed. And then I start my day and it's great.
Yeah. No, that's I like that. That's really, really smart. That's good advice.
It can help set the pace for the day because as we all know during the day people can challenge you. So
Yeah. Yeah.
so I'm honored to be here. So thank you very much.
You got it. Well, we'll end the stream. Hang with me for 1 second. I want to thank everybody for watching. Thanks, everybody. Big hand for Keio Stroud. Hey, everybody. John dechristopher here, and I want to thank you for watching and listening to Live from My Drum Room. I started this show in April of 2020, and it's now 4 years and almost 200 episodes later, and I'm excited to tell you about my new Live from My Drum Room t-shirts. In fact, I'm wearing one right now. Made of 60% cotton, 40% polyester, a really soft cotton blend. I'm wearing a size medium, and you can have yours for $25, including shipping in the contiguous US. I will give you my Venmo information, which I'll also include in the description. There's my Venmo information, and you can email me at livefrommydrumroom@gmail.com with any questions, and that will also be in the description. So get your shirt while they last. They're available in extra small to double XL. I do have limited quantities of the extra smalls and the double XLs, but plenty of everything else. So once again, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Thanks for subscribing. And don't forget to pick up your Live from My Drum Room t-shirt. See you soon. And remember, no drummers are harmed on any show. All right, well, that's my show. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, give it a like, leave me a comment. Don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel if you haven't done that already. And the podcast is available on all the podcast platforms, so download it. And remember, no drummers are ever harmed on Live from My Drum Room or Track Talk. And drummers, when in doubt, leave it out. All right. Again, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you again real soon. See ya.